message in just a second. All right, and let me share my screen. Right now, I'm just going to go ahead and share our agenda. Let's go with screen 2. All right. And at any point in time, if you cannot hear me, if you could just throw that in the chat. I have that open in my other screen here. And just an FYI, Paul is going to be heading out at 2 for a committee meeting. Okay, that is all good. That's why we have the recordings in case you want to go back and listen to them at a later point in time. We've got a pretty full agenda here today. Just making it a little bit larger here. So of course, we've already done our welcomes and introductions. We've got a couple of updates. So you're going to be listening to me talk quite a bit today. Then we're going to head into an activity, which we'll be using Miro board for that. And I also want to, I didn't write this on the, I didn't put it in the agenda, though I had thought about it before, so apologies for that. But we're going to be going through sort of those goals and topics that we created at the end of last year, and we're just kind of update them together just to kind of show where we're at and what we've been up to. Then we'll also do a couple of member discussions and just kind of show a couple more things, some more updates. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So our first point on the agenda is the statewide deal. I've got a couple notes over here. Don't know too much. I will start with that. I have heard through the grapevine that at least Gale and EBSCO have submitted RFPs. The deadline for submitting for the RFP for the statewide deal was originally scheduled in the middle of March, I believe, but they kept that period open for quite a number of weeks afterwards to just allow more vendors and publishers to submit RFPs for that. So they're a little behind as well, kind of getting all that information and kind of going through those things. I haven't seen any updates in the last couple of days, or certainly not since I spoke to my contact who kind of gave me these sort of updates. So they were just aware that Gale and EBSCO are for certain have submitted. So we don't know what that means as far as if EBSCO is awarded this statewide deal. We're kind of starting to think, well, what happens to our package B deal with Rails, right? So my contact assured me that EBSCO is open to moving some databases around. They're going to ensure that there is no overlap with our current package and anything that might be offered in the statewide deal. So that's just something to be on the lookout for. Of course, as I find out more information, I'll be talking to those people and talking to the right folks and kind of solidifying and thinking about how we move forward. We don't have a time frame when, sort of once the vendor and database package is selected, how soon that's going to be up and running. So we don't have that information yet. It's certainly, I can't fathom it's going to be any sooner than the end of this year. So we're looking into at least the beginning of next year, if not well into the spring of next year. So if your library is a current EBSCO participant in that package B deal, you're all set for this upcoming year. You don't really have to think about that too much at the moment. As I said, when we find out, and this is if EBSCO is awarded this deal, we still have no idea. We also don't have any idea what's in it, what databases or packages they offered for that RFP. So as soon as I have more information, I'll let you know. But I just wanted to give you sort of just a very quick update. And of course, if your libraries are familiar with any Gale products at all, you know that they're a huge vendor as well. They offer a lot of database packages that are, research-based as well, very on par with kind of what EBSCO offers. So we'll kind of see what what's in that deal once we find out more information. And maybe neither one of those two vendors are going to be part of it. We just don't know yet. But I just wanted to sort of, if you're thinking about the statewide deal and where we all stand as far as our EBSCO package goes, everything is still up in the air. And I have just been reassured that there's not going to be any sort of overlap in databases. So that is good to know, and a good starting point, I think. Does anybody have any thoughts, or has anybody else here maybe have heard something else? You know, you all have different sources than I do. And you could just go ahead and unmute yourself if you like, or throw it in the chat if you can't talk. But I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so just go ahead and move on. I haven't seen anybody unmute either. Okay, so that's just sort of just a quick update on what we know about our statewide deal. Another quick update, we talked about sort of a group purchase or like a group discount. Remember we did that poll. We had a list of vendors or products that we were interested in. I'm just going to flip over to our Miro board here. I'm going to throw the link in the chat just so that you all can follow along with me here. All right. So this is the sort of section that I'm talking about now, this group purchase investigation. We had identified 3 top contenders that you all were interested in working with, or possibly soliciting for a discount. Those were BrainFuse, PressReader, and ValueLine. Now, I have met with BrainFuse and ValueLine. PressReader has been a little bit more, aloof as far as trying to get a hold of them or trying to get to speak with somebody. But I'll just update you on what I have from BrainFuse so far. So BrainFuse, I met with Jack, which if any of your libraries are, current BrainFuse product subscribers, you're probably familiar with Jack already, but I met with him. We had a great conversation. He went through the varying packages, Help Now, all those sort of Job Now, all those sort of packages and kind of what they offer. There, then they've got that tutoring model, and this is where it might be difficult to sort of get any type of extra discounts from BrainFuse, and that is because they offer those live tutoring services. Now, they have to pay those tutors regardless if people sign up or not, or so they've kind of got recurring fees that they pay. So they don't have a ton of room to move on being able to offer SWAN libraries an additional discount or anything that's outside of Rails. But we did talk about possibly, maybe even something like once a week, all of the SWAN libraries have access to, the tutoring services for an hour or two. We didn't get into any specifics as far as package or, bundling products, but they offer a lot of discounts for that already. Also, a lot of our libraries are current BrainFuse subscribers, so there's really not a lot of room for them to make a ton of money off of being able to offer us an additional discount. So we were looking at maybe something that we could offer everybody in SWAN. But I haven't gotten specifics back. I sent Jack a list of our public libraries and the service population that goes along with that. And I haven't heard anything back. It's been a few weeks. So I'm just going to reach out and maybe kind of touch base and kind of see where or what he's thinking or where we stand. I know he had to talk to other higher ups at BrainFuse as well. This is not a decision that he could certainly make on his own. So how do we feel about BrainFuse? How do we feel about something like being able to offer all of our SWAN libraries a tutoring service 1 or 2 days a week for several hours? Is that something that you would like to pursue, or are you strictly looking for just additional discounts?
Since we don't already offer Brainfuse at Messenger, like I'm personally interested in access some way.
Yeah, okay.
But I know that that might not be right for the whole consortium.
Yeah. Anybody else have any thoughts?
I would definitely be interested to hear more. I think
Okay.
it's something that might be popular in our community.
Yeah, I think, even if it was something that was for 1 year, we're able to offer all of our SWAN libraries sort of a tutoring service, right? Ideally, let's say it all works out. It's all great. We get it all worked out. It's all set up. And then based on usage or, feedback from your community, then you could add services and there's things, where you can work things out directly with Brainfuse. And that was something that's nice and something that I think moving forward and talking to different vendors is something that I'm looking for, is kind of that flexibility where we could offer something at the consortium level, but they're still flexible enough to be able to work directly with individual libraries to kind of meet your needs, because your needs are going to be vastly different, from any other library, even the ones that are around you. Um, so I think that's something, it kind of got all the gears turning, kind of reaching out to these vendors and talking about discounts, and even like consortium wide purchases, just sort of thinking in the wider scope of what we should be looking for here at SWAN. And that is something that's definitely on my list, just sort of that ability for these vendors to also work directly with individual libraries and not always having to go through me, or it's, kind of all or nothing, which I don't think any of them are like that, but we definitely want to stay away from that, because every library's needs are different. So yeah, so I really liked that meeting with Brainfuse. I think out of the two that I met with, that is definitely more, he seemed more willing and, kind of more flexible on that. So that was nice. The next meeting I had was with Value Line. I met with Don. Again, if you are a current Value Line subscribing library, you may be familiar with Don already, or you may have a specific sales representative that you go through. But Don was great. We met briefly. Our meeting was much shorter than mine and Jack's at Brainfuse. And I will just say this, they're really not open to any sort of discounts or consortium-wide purchase. He said he would we talked a little bit about what we're looking for here at SWAN, and he was going to, again, talk to other people that are much higher up on the ladder than he is. But he did say that they're really not looking forward to, or not that they're not looking forward to it, but that they're really probably not going to be open, that they haven't done anything like this before. So they don't have sort of a template for it, or they don't really thought that they had a case for this, for offering some sort of additional discount. But again, we talked a little bit about what we're looking for here. He even really didn't even go into a lot of like the research center or anything like that for Value Line, or kind of what products would even be on the table. So I'm not super hopeful of that meeting, but it was a good meeting to have, just to kind of get the gears turning and to be able to think about what we're looking for as far as these SWAN wide deals or discounts when they come into play. Also with Value Line, Don did make a very specific statement that if you are already a subscribing library, that they would not be open to offering a discount for an existing library. It would be just for new libraries only. So that was something that, we weren't super crazy about, but something to keep in mind. But again, gave Don some information, and I gotta ping him and kind of see what he's thinking here. And if the answer is no, then it's no, that's fine. But again, it's better to know than to kind of be left in the dark. Now with Press Reader, I didn't talk to anybody, so I haven't met with anybody at Press Reader, but I will say that Press Reader already has, there's already a current offer through Rails. And it actually looks like Rails is actually in the renewal or join period for new Press Reader accounts. So if that is something that you're interested in learning more about, I would suggest going to the Rails deals and discounts page. There's a lot of stuff there. I'm sure you all look at it all the time, but I'm just going to bring it up here because I feel like it's something that kind of we forget about a lot. So it's railslibraries.org. I've got my favorites here, and I've got it bookmarked under my favorites in Rails. So you do need to sign in, of course, with your L2 account in order to see the whole list of deals and discounts. But there's a ton of stuff here. So they've got some featured stuff. You know, you could look by your library type. And these are sort of all of the group purchases that are available for all of the Rails libraries. So if you see, I know press readers in here. Yeah, so they've got something here specifically for public libraries. So if this is something that you're so interested in, definitely take a look here. I think you could also email if you need additional information on kind of what the deal, you know, sort of the specifics that are involved in that. And I will say that press reader, a lot of our libraries are, I mean, I think just in the past month alone, I've had several libraries that are joining press, you know, that recently signed up for press reader, and they work directly and they support Open Athens for authentication. So something to keep in mind. It's a good way moving forward. And they've got an app and everything. So it's really convenient for your users. Of course, you already know this. I don't have to sell it to you. But yeah, so that's just something to keep in mind there. But with, again, like talking to these vendors and sort of doing this background and information search on potential discounts and things, when I first approached them, it's like, yeah, I am completely open. I am completely flexible, you know, and I don't know that that's the best way to approach it. Like, yes, I want to continue to be flexible and open, but I think we kind of need to put some guards in place for like what we're looking for. I mean, it does take a little bit of work, right? Going back and forth with these people, getting meetings on the board, you're missing calls, you're playing phone tag a lot of the time. So I think just maybe having like a basis of what we're looking for here at SWAN and the types of discounts or consortial-wide purchases that we're willing to pursue. I think it's good to have that written out and on our support site for all of our SWAN member libraries to see. You know, there's a lot of things that I hadn't thought about until I started kind of looking and kind of developing this this document, which is like, you know, if 20-30% of our SWAN member libraries are already subscribed to the product, then what does the vendor have to gain by offering additional discounts? Things like that, where that might then discounts completely off the table. Let's just look at a consortial-wide purchase then, or something like that along those lines. Just kind of defining what we mean by electronic resources. What types of resources are we looking for? Who are we supporting? As you know, SWAN membership libraries are a mix, right? We've got, got a couple of school libraries. We've got public libraries, which is the majority of our membership, but we also have some colleges as well and some special libraries. So who are we looking to support? So defining all of those things and kind of writing that out and having it very clearly on our support side, I think is going to be my next step. And then of course, soliciting ideas and maybe like, well, who could we approach for a discount now based on these things that we have written out and kind of what we're looking for. And I think it'll make it a little bit easier for me to approach these vendors if I have a little bit more of a clear path as to what exactly we're looking for. Is there any thoughts on that, or anything anybody would like to add? Pretty quiet. That's all right. But as soon as I get, yeah, no problem, Michelle. So as soon as I kind of get some documentation written up as far as what we're going to pursue as far as, future reaching out to vendors or publishers. We'll get that on our support side. And of course, we'll let everybody in the membership know that that's available. In the meantime, though, I think it's worth still going down our line and, kind of reaching out. I'm just going to flip back over to the mirror board. So maybe going down the line, I know we voted on all of them. So I think I'm just going to continue to go down the line and just kind of reach out and see what we get. If that's okay with everybody. All right. So yeah. Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right. So the next topic, we'll go ahead and move to the next topic if everyone's okay on our current discounts and consortial-wide purchase conversation. And that is going to be troubleshooting documentation. So troubleshooting is one of those things that is on our list here. You could see it under topics. So troubleshooting e-resources for staff. Pretty vague, right? Like, what do we mean by thanks, Paul, take care. What do we mean by troubleshooting? Like, e-resources there's so much there. I think we need to kind of narrow it down a little bit. So of course I had posted on our forums, if you can think or maybe even ask questions of, just even other staff members in your library, kind of what types of questions they get often, what you find yourself answering all of the time, and maybe starting with something like that. I even thought today I was working with somebody here at SWAN, somebody on another team or in another department, and I started to think about at what point is it something that SWAN can answer and troubleshoot, or you at the library can answer and troubleshoot, and when does it need to go back to the vendor? Like, when do we just need to reach out to the vendor? And that's not always clear. Or is it just not clear to me because I'm not in your shoes working in the library? Is that an agreeable statement, or?
I have a comment on that based on something that came up this week at Messenger. We had an issue with a patron who was having trouble checking out ebooks through the SWAN app.
Mhm.
But what happens, or what I've found personally, is some of these issues, what's really hard to tell if it's the vendor, if it's a SWAN thing, is it their device, and just kind of narrowing that down. So with the issue with the SWAN app, we've only seen it like 3 or 4 times, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I had reached out and just asked for some clarification on what are patrons able to do through the SWAN app. Like, I know they can put e-books and e-audiobooks on hold, but can they check them out? And so we were kind of going back and forth with that. And we literally were just going back and forth about that yesterday and today. So I don't have a lot of answers yet.
Yeah, but it's super fresh. And I think that's a good question. I think that's something that we could write down here. I know there's a lot in your issue right now. So I think as part of this activity is to kind of get those questions out. And let's break them down into the simplest questions possible. So maybe with your one issue, you're going to develop, 3 or 4 different questions out of that. And I think that's okay. Like, I think we want to create documentation for all of these things, because we don't want you to have to do all of this again, right? You're doing probably a lot of testing, you're going back and forth a lot. We don't want you to have to do that all over again 4 months from now when we forget, right? Or it hasn't been an issue and now it's going to come up again. Or maybe it's coming up for another platform or something. So I think what I'd like to do is I'm going to get this link and you all can edit it. And here, what I would like you all to do is you see two different sets of sticky notes. And I'd like for you all to just kind of pick a color, pick a sticky note, don't think about it too much, make it larger because you're going to have some questions. That's okay. You could do that. You don't have to pick a color based on anything. Just pick something that you like and start writing those questions out. You should be able to format your font size so you could go smaller. That way you've got more space. Just like in any word processor, you could move that over to the right. I don't think I could do it as a blanket for all of the sticky notes, but certainly I think this is a good idea. And I think we should spend a couple minutes just sort of getting out questions that you find yourself answering often, or maybe you answered a question or a situation and now you have this idea for like, oh, that should be in documentation and let me write this out. And if it's something that you haven't fully tested and like figured out yourself, I don't want you to worry about that. I just want you focusing on the questions that you find yourself answering and what you would like to see documentation for. And I think this is something that we can further put into different categories, types of questions. We could even categorize it by the electronic resource vendor itself. Like, let's just see what we get and let's go from there. And let's let Olivia worry about organizing it all and putting together that documentation, unless you already have something ready to go, which would be great if you would share it with me. But I would like to see a section further fleshed out on our support site for troubleshooting e-resource issues. I could even do some sort of a flow chart. Like, at what point is this just like, you got to go to Baker and Taylor because it's an issue with Boundless, or, something like that, where, okay, you've tried all of these things and now, you just need to go directly to the vendor. And that way it minimizes any sort of downtime. You're better informed, you're better to, take action with your patrons, and, they trust the things that we offer them. We certainly don't want to leave a bad taste in anyone's mouth as far as being able to go back and forth between these different apps and placing a hold here versus placing a hold in another thing. So yeah, like I said, don't think about it too much. Just go ahead and start writing them out. And this board moves around. So if you kind of minimize it a little bit, you have space. If you want to grab a sticky note, throw it off to the side, write out your questions, and then maybe bring it back to this sort of middle section here. Please go ahead and do that. And some of these questions I know are going to take a little bit more thinking about. I don't want you to think about it too much. I just want you to write out what you've got, and then we'll work on further breaking down that question if perhaps it's too big of a question. And this is not an activity where like you have to share out loud or anything like that. I just want you to go ahead and pick a sticky note and start typing. You can leave this middle section alone for now. I think that is kind of in my head. This is kind of where I want to start when we start categorizing our questions. This is where it's kind of what I might use to organize those questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm confused. What
Yeah.
are we supposed to be writing down?
Yeah, sorry, Sarah.
Like,
yeah,
are we
just like
supposed to be
questions?
like, are we supposed to be writing the But what questions? Like the questions that our patrons ask us, or the
Yeah.
questions that we use to try and troubleshoot? Because that's
Oh,
usually
right.
more helpful, because patrons don't really know what they're talking about half the time when they
Oh,
have a
okay.
problem.
Yeah. If it's something that you questions that you use to, well, now I can't think. So
Because I
maybe
guess patrons will ask the same, essentially the same root question, like a lot of different ways. And it turns out that
yeah.
what they say is not really what's wrong. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I guess that's why I'm struggling with it. I may be
Yeah.
thinking about it too hard.
Yeah. And I want to say you probably are, but then I have no way to I have nothing to offer you to like make it any more helpful or to make
No,
it
that's
clear.
fine. I'll do my best.
Yeah, it might be interesting to hear some of the like weird patron questions you get though, because yeah, if you're sort of searching through an FAQ or some sort of list of weird questions, and
Yeah.
that might be, even if it's the same kind of root issue, like, you know, like I know the hoopla pin thing is a big one.
Oh yeah.
That's been the bane of my existence for forever.
And I think once you start thinking about it and writing them down, I'm hoping that it'll become easier. I love this. There's a lot going on already. I actually think today I created an issue upon myself testing something, and then I figured it out. And so I think I'm going to use that to sort of, as documentation and get this part of this troubleshooting issue because I'm sure it's going to come up. Yes, Michelle. So Michelle in the chat she had to step away for a bit. Yeah, frequent troubleshooting related questions. Pick a sticky note, go ahead and write down any sort of questions that you find yourself answering often, or even one that you may have spent some time working on, or something that you get. And that way I could start to have kind of a more of a guide to types of documentation that I need to create. And that way we could have available for you all. And I think, and Tara, you could stop me if I'm wrong, or maybe if I'm imagining things, but if it is something that the patron can do or something easily themselves, we would like to maybe add some of that to our patron site. That way patrons could kind of go through some stuff too. Like there was some stuff that came up with the additional e-resource checks, where the patrons themselves can modify their own library card, or merge their own account or something like that. And that's something that we could put on the patron site so that way patrons can find it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And this could also even be a little bit broader too. So if there's just like a very simple question that you find yourself spending time answering, but it's something that the patron could easily do themselves, we could also create documentation that's for the patron. I didn't set a timer on this. I'm just looking at my clock. Oh, Lisa, that's good to know. So Lisa has shared in the chat that patrons can open their own tickets with Libby through the app, through the Libby app, and it captures all of their app and device information. Yeah, that's good. In fact, the issue that I came across today was a Libby app issue in syncing. And my situation is a bit different because I'm doing a ton of testing. So I've got like 6 different library cards in my Libby app. And maybe that's not the best thing to do, but I'm going to write up some documentation for it just in case anybody finds themselves with a syncing issue. Oh, Michelle, that's good to know. So if there is a patron opened a ticket for Overdrive or for Libby, you could see it in Marketplace. Right? Is that Overdrive Marketplace? Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's nice. Can you see the tickets once they're closed, or do you only see them when they're open? Oh, okay.
Never noticed the ticket feature in either of those, but now I'm looking at it and it's wonderful.
Mhm. And I'm seeing a Canopy sticky note on the board, which is nice. I don't see too many questions when it comes to Canopy, so this is good to know. Like, Canopy is growing in throughout our SWAN consortium, and it'd be nice to have some documentation there for when an issue like this comes up. I'm just going to scroll over and see. All right. So I think what I'll do while you all are still working on writing out some questions is I'm going to start moving the sticky notes around to kind of group them together. So I've got something for the SWAN app, another one for the SWAN app. Well, what are the benefits to using the SWAN app versus vendor app? I think I'll group that together. Okay, then we've got something boundless, hoopla, checked out through Aspen, but can't access it. How are we all doing? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's sort of the thing, right? You get put on the spot and then it's hard to come up with them, hard to think of them. But if you do come up with any, we'll probably revisit this activity again. So certainly as they come up, please write them down and we'll get them together. And this will give me a good start on kind of what types of documentation and moving through all of that stuff, getting all of it together. Oh yeah, hoopla, daily limit, yep. Great. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and flip over to our other board. But if you're in the middle of a question or writing something out, feel free to keep working on it. I'm just gonna flip over back to this board here. And what I'd like to do is I'm gonna first zoom out a bit so that we could see everything. But so we've got our goals for 2024. We worked on these at the end of last year, things that we were looking forward to. We also wrote out, just some topics that we can add to our meetings. And I just created kind of like a complete over here. So I'd like to go ahead and move that stuff over. So one of the things that we recently did was we created that checklist for updating patron library cards. So move that over into the complete group. We're working on this now, troubleshooting e-resources for staff. Overdrive troubleshooting, Hoopla troubleshooting, I'm sure that's probably all going to go together with that group. What else did we do? So I did, ooh, I got to ungroup it. Not that I did that. All right. BrainFuse, talk to BrainFuse. Got some information on PressReader. Book to value line. Okay, so that's 3 right there. Those are things that are going to be coming up at the end of this year. I think this was one of the goals that I may have made, and we talked a bit about, which was the Open Athens reports being a little bit more robust. I'm not quite yet ready to take that on just yet. I think I need to speak with people at Open Athens to kind of see how we can further make those reports more robust, and then maybe bringing that back to you all and then working with you all to kind of see, well, what do we need? What do we need to see? Types of things we need to see. And that way I could work on making those reports a little bit better. So this is something that I think we'll tackle a little bit later in this year. And yeah, so we were able to move a couple things over into our complete, which is great. Show and tell. I'm gonna, this will be an ongoing topic. Oh, and Michelle's asking where they could find the e-checklist. And yes, let me show you, because it is live. And this was one of my, I didn't probably do it too well on my agenda, but it's sort of at the bottom. But let me flip back to our support site and let me show you where that's at. So we're on our SWAN support site. I'm logged in, so I see some things that are a little bit different, so don't mind it. The steps that you'll take are going to be the same. So under documentation, you're going to head over to e-resources. Click on that. And then if you scroll down, it's titled Additional e-resource checks. And as you can see by the summary, patrons that are replacing a library card, or for patrons that have moved from one SWAN library to a new SWAN library and are issued a new library card. So if we click on that, then we get to our page here. So a little bit of background information on these e-content platforms and why they were chosen. and just sort of why we're doing this. And this is just to ensure that if a patron has any current titles that are checked out, or if they have titles on hold, that they do not lose their place in line for that content. Also, a disclaimer here that there may be additional e-content vendors and platforms that are not listed that are going to require additional support from library staff. So I imagine that this page is going to be, we're going to be growing it. We're going to be adding more vendors as time goes, but these are just the ones that we started with. So we've got Overdrive, Hoopla, Cloud Library, and Boundless. If we click on Overdrive, for example, these are the steps that we'll take. So this is for library staff, just telling you where to go, how to navigate, things to look out for. Sorry, I know my image is a little small, but you can make it larger on your screen. And those steps that you need to take. Also, just then I added this optional additional step in each of the platforms so that, just to kind of double check that things have actually merged. It's kind of a good rule of thumb to do that. Okay, so there's like Libby Overdrive, and then we've got Hoopla here. And I want to say a big thank you to those of you who took the time to send me these screenshots. Very thankful for it. So we know we got somebody from Messenger that did it. And there's steps for Cloud Library, steps for Boundless. Okay. So this is that additional checklist there. And sort of those steps in those screenshots. Again, as I've said previously, that as we find other vendors that require help from library staff, we can add it here. So if you come across something, I know we had a couple of listed on our notes from that meeting. But if you come across anything, you can certainly feel free to reach out to me and let me know, oh, this, whatever vendor, the patron can't do it themselves. We have to merge their account for them. Let me know the steps, and I could add it here to this page. So this is our additional e-resource checks. And yeah, that's what we've got there. Ideally, we'll be adding troubleshooting documentation under the e-resources section as well. So I'm looking forward to working on that. So thank you for listing those questions today. I'm gonna head back to the Miro board now. Yeah, are there any questions about sort of what we've completed or about our activity that we just did or about the checklist itself? Thanks, Carrie. Carrie's just heading out. Okay, don't see any questions in the chat or any follow-up there, so we could probably go ahead and move on to our next topic, which I have, and this sort of here is this building up usage of EBSCO package. I can't remember if there was more said about this at the time. Does anybody remember what maybe, or if you're still here in this meeting, what you mean by building up usage of the package? Like how to promote our EBSCO resources, or am I thinking about it wrong? Ah, yes, okay. Promotion materials. Okay, great. I don't know. I think e-resource advisory was part of this, but I worked on gathering materials, marketing materials and graphics. So let me show you again where those are at. how do I get there? Let's search. It's been a while since I visited. All right, promotional graphics. Let's take a look here. And I'll put the link in the chat. Yeah, so in this page, we've got a section for e-resources. Let me put it in the chat here. All right. And then I'm going to jump down to e-resources. Yeah, so if you're looking for promotional materials, Consumer Reports has its own kit. EBSCO Connect promotional materials. Let's open this page and let's see what we get. So they've got a ton of stuff here. So if you want to enter in your database that you're specifically looking for things for, like what is something that everyone's going to use that somebody would use? Let's just say academic search. Okay. Okay, academic search complete, let's say. So, there's some graphic there. Oh, that opened into another page. Let me put the whole thing down. That way we're just getting complete. There's a guide on how to get started. There's a poster. You can even, some of the EBSCO materials that you're able to upload your library logo as well. So you could further personalize it. And it really just depends on the particular product. So the Getting Started guide will, of course, have just sort of more in depth of what you can do with this particular database. Let me head back here. Consumer Reports, if you're looking for a way to further promote Consumer Reports. Again, we purchase Consumer Reports through EBSCO, and they've got their own section here of materials. So here they've also got some printable materials such as handouts and bookmarks. And I think you can also, so this one you can't enter it contains a text field, but there's not a particular section for like your library logo, but you could still further personalize by entering some text there. Also gives you some helpful tips on how to print these. Other social media kits. So if you're looking for ways to promote this on one of your social media accounts, that one downloaded something. So open that right now. But there is a wealth of information there. So this is just, I wanted just to kind of remind you where kind of these marketing resources are at. Yeah, so many of them allow for you to upload your library logo or type in additional information. Once you go to the promotional materials for EBSCO, you may be able to even just bookmark that page, which will be nice. And that way, like if every year you are like, right, with the renewal coming up for EBSCO, you may have selected some new databases for the upcoming year. And so here you're able to type that in and get anything ready for pushing these new databases that you might have. I know one of them is Legal Information Source. I think it's called Source now. It used to be called Reference Center, but now it's called Legal Information Source. So yeah, here we go. Social media kits, product buttons, posters, handouts. So again, you don't have to recreate anything. You can simply take what EBSCO has already done and print them out for your library. Also, just to sort of remind you all that there is the ability in Aspen to create placards. And I know many of you have already. So if there's something that you want to do to maybe like refresh your placard and maybe see if you're getting more visits to the database, that's something you could do as well. That might be an interesting test to do, right? Is like maybe push a specific database, and then you can visit in EBSCO admin and kind of view how many people have visited your database. And if you have a placard in Aspen, maybe revamping that, or if you don't have them already, you can certainly open up a ticket at help@swanlibraries.net. And we have documentation on our support site on how to create them. And we could also help you with finding other examples from other libraries as well. Sometimes I know I like to visually see an example of something already done. That way it just kind of helps me focus a little bit better on kind of what I'm trying to say and what I want to promote. Is there anything else as far as building up usage that you might want to see? Or anything that I'm not thinking of besides placards and marketing materials? Has anybody here heavily promoted? It doesn't have to be an EBSCO database, any sort of resource. And have you seen like an uptick in usage to that site or visits to that site? And Michelle in the chat has just added that it's just kind of one of those questions, how to better promote e-resources, but nothing specific. Yeah. And I know there was some folks in this group where they promoted a database in sort of like a newsletter, and they could see the clicks that happened from those newsletters to that resource. So that's always something interesting as well, if you have the ability to do that. Yeah, Sarah. Okay, so then it was probably St. Charles that I was thinking of. Newsletter gets a surprising amount of hits, usually helps. That's great. When we put Lisa from Mozilla has added physical promotion near collection items, we do see an increased usage. So consumer reports bookmarks and mango flyers. Also done some DYK. Did you know social media posts? Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's a good way to remind folks that are on different, maybe not be physically visiting the library, that are on social media and following your library's accounts, especially with these electronic resources sort of made for them, right? Good click following the post. That's great. Right, so if there's nothing else with that, I'm just going to flip back to the mirror board for our goals and topics. Yeah. Of course, let me double check this promotional graphic Comics Plus. So we have, of course, just kind of running through, reminding everybody here what's on this page. So we've got promotional materials for EBSCO, consumer reports. Comics Plus also has a ton of stuff, marketing material available for print and for social media accounts if you are a Comics Plus subscriber. Access 360, I've got to change that, don't I? Oh no, yeah. Oh yeah. So eRead Illinois, Boundless, they do have Boundless here, marketing assets. We've got stuff for Cloud Library, Hoopla, Canopy, Overdrive. So there's a lot of stuff here. Of course, it is not everything that, it certainly doesn't cover all of our vendors and everybody that we currently work with, but this is a reminder for me to certainly continue adding to this page here. So definitely bookmark it. don't forget about it, because it's sort of here in one place for you. That way you don't have to be digging around in different, in all of these different vendor platforms and things. Great. Well, let's see what I've got next on our agenda. New e-resources. So I know we lost quite a bit of folks just due to other conflicting meetings during this time, but if anybody would like to share either a new resource that you recently implemented, or maybe you just want to give a shout out to a particular electronic resource that you love or that they've been easy to work with, or your patrons really have positive feedback on it, let's hear about it. Let's open up the mics and see what you all have to share. No, no one's unmuting.
I'll unmute.
Yay.
This is not a new resource. But I just discovered that on Hoopla, one of their binge passes is like a site that you can play like Sudoku and those kinds of games, which I had no idea we were offering puzzles and games through our e-resources. So that's exciting.
Oh, that's really good to know. So they've got puzzle. Do they have like a good selection of puzzles and things?
Yeah. It looks like it's not like just one puzzle a day. Like you can go through and do past daily puzzles.
Oh, that's fun.
So there's a lot of options in there.
Oh, that's really cool. See, I did not know that was available. And that's through a binge pass, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Puzzles. I like my puzzles. Right now, I've only got that free account with New York Times, and so I can only play one puzzle a day, which gets a little sad sometimes when I've got a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah, me too. I don't even have an account, so I think I get less puzzles, but
Anybody else have anything that they'd like to share or give a little shout out for?
I know we're a little behind the curve. I know we're a little behind the curve, but we just got Comics Plus and everybody loves it here.
Yeah,
so
you guys did. Yeah, that's great news. Is everybody loving it?
we made the mistake of looking at it years ago when it wasn't quite ready for prime time, and so then we're just like, oh yeah, that's right, they didn't have much of a selection, and so I just kind of kept forgetting about it until last year. So I'm glad we finally got it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, there's been a couple of libraries that have recently subscribed to Comics Plus. It's great to see the number of libraries growing that offer it. Our renewal period is going to be coming up soon for Comics Plus. I've recently been in contact with them as well, so it's interesting. It's fun, and they're growing as a company, and it's exciting to see it. And Sarah, if you need any sort of materials, they've got a ton of stuff, right? You are aware of that. But every time I make a slide, every time I make a slide for Fireside about it, like I always make it a point to get new graphics from Comics Plus just to kind of promote it. If we're talking about it, like with the renewal period, I'll talk about it. Anybody else have anything? I think maybe next time I'll move this part of the where we share the member discussion for new e-resources to the beginning of the meeting. That way we get the maximum number of participants instead of waiting to the end. I don't know why I just assumed everybody sticks around, and I forget that this is a very long meeting and you might have other things that come up during this time. So yeah. So I'll just go ahead and continue moving on. The next topic, of course, was the additional e-resource check, which we talked about already. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that. And kind of the last thing on our list is ideas for SWAN Expo. So it's coming up faster than we believe, but we are currently at our stage. I'm already here on our support site. Let me get to the homepage here. All right. So here is our 2024 SWAN Expo call for proposals. So right now the period is open to submit a proposal. We'd like to hear from the libraries. I think that was on our feedback, right, Tara? Was for more library-led.
Yeah, we had, yeah, that was on our feedback, but we've so far gotten a big fat 0 proposals from the memberships. We would love to have some ideas from y'all. Or if you don't have a session idea that you'd like to lead, but you're interested in hearing from, you know, and maybe SWAN reaching out, finding someone to present on that topic. We're also definitely interested in hearing just, you know, kind of sessions you'd be interested in having at the expo.
Oh, thanks, Tara, for clarifying that. So yeah, it's coming up. This year it'll be on August 23rd. The deadline for proposals is pretty fast. I think this is one of the last member meetings that we're having before May 3rd, where this period was open for the call for proposals. But if there is a topic that you're interested in, or if there's something that you'd like to pitch, we are welcoming it. There are some guidelines here. And it's a pretty, you know, kind of what you're interested in presenting, or if you, like Tara said, if you're interested in perhaps a topic, but that you're not comfortable leading it, we have time at this point to sort of find folks that may be in a better position to lead a session. So that was the last thing on our agenda. Our next meeting, I believe, is in June. Let me double check the agenda. Yep, June 27th. I can't believe it'll be the middle of summer at that point. It's kind of hard to believe. Let me stop sharing. And I will stop the recording.